Great. So thank you guys so much for joining on, I'll say this morning, but this afternoon. We're just going to have a really quick chat about our Think Green Impact programme and why it's so important for small scale engagement across the trust. So first off, I think it's important to address why we need Think Green Impact full stop. So we're going to talk a little bit about climate change itself. Oh, let's do it that way. So I think instead of us just talking about some facts, literally just reading them off a screen, I think it's a really nice way is to have a little video. Can we hear now? Perfect. There we go.
Protests around the world, headlines about extreme weather events, scientists and public figures calling for action, and governments uniting in the search for solutions. Climate change is a global issue, and we must work together to save our world. But what exactly is climate change? Our planet's climate has changed throughout history, alternating between ice ages and warmer periods. Earth has been through at least 5 major ice ages, with the last one ending nearly 12,000 years ago. So if the climate has always changed, why is climate change such a big issue today? Since the start of the Industrial Revolution in 1760, Earth's average temperature has risen faster than ever before. This effect is known as global warming, and it's caused by the increase of greenhouse emissions from human activity. Greenhouse gases occur naturally on our planet, but human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels, agriculture, deforestation, and the decomposition of waste in landfills have increased the amount of greenhouse gases dramatically. Greenhouse gases act like a blanket around Earth, trapping the heat from the sun's rays. This is called the greenhouse effect. Thanks to this effect, Earth has just the right temperature for life to thrive on it, unlike other planets in our solar system. However, if the greenhouse effect becomes too strong, it starts to cause issues. The increased temperatures we are experiencing now are causing ice in the Arctic and Antarctica, as well as glaciers and snow around the world, to melt. The water created by the melting ice pours into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise. This puts small islands in danger of disappearing, especially those in the Pacific and Caribbean regions. Rising sea levels are also causing devastating floods in many countries like China, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Thailand. These floods are not only a direct hazard to humans, but can also destroy crops and farms used to feed the population. Another effect of the rising temperatures is that oceans warm up and evaporate faster than normal, increasing the occurrence of severe storms and heavy rainfall. Global warming is making weather more extreme, bringing longer droughts and heat waves. The loss of soil moisture and the high temperatures during a drought increase the risk of wildfires too. The high temperatures both on land and in our oceans affect Earth's delicate ecosystems. Many animals are forced to migrate to other areas to survive, while others are losing their habitat and dying. So, can we do anything to stop the effects of climate change? Climate change has already reached a point that humanity has never experienced before. However, the future of our planet is in our hands. Communities must make smart choices and tackle this issue with environmentally friendly actions. Some solutions to limit global warming include switching from burning fossil fuels to renewable and greener energy sources like solar, hydroelectric, or wind energy. Reducing the emissions caused by industry and transportation by investing in greener technology. And limiting the deforestation of land and investing in more space-efficient forms of agriculture, like vertical farming. These are all big solutions, but there are also smaller things that you can easily do at home. For example, recycling, composting your organic waste, eating more veggies and fewer meat products, saving electricity, and buying things that last longer or can be reused. People around the world are working together to innovate, engineer, and develop solutions for the issue of climate change. Bhutan is the world's most carbon-negative country. Costa Rica has achieved 99% renewable energy. And China is now the world leader in wind power. Climate change is a global issue, and our future depends on the actions we take today. How is your community working towards a more sustainable future?
Cool. So I think that's quite a nice video that kind of just explains it all and all the little things that people can do, including ourselves. Oh, our fire alarm's going off. Apologies about that. To help tackle climate change. So what I will go on to next is I'll pass you over to Richard, who's our sustainability and energy manager, just to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the trust to tackle everything that's kind of just come up in that video. So over to you, Richard.
Thanks, Katie. Hello, everyone. Yeah, just I mean that little video kind of set it all up. And I think the key word in there was community, and it's kind of the CUH community trying to do something about it. But the trust here is, as you might know, we've been working on this for some time, probably the last 15 years or so. And when we had a plan in 2013, something rather uncatchily called the Sustainable Development Management Plan, and that kind of guided us along the way to kind of where we are now to a point. I think, though, in that period since 2013, I think everyone's probably picked up on the rapid change in understanding and the rate and the severity of the impacts we kind of just saw in that video, to the point that the government declared a climate emergency in 2019. Declaring an emergency is pretty serious. The NHS then picked up on that really positively round about 2020 with a kind of real leadership document called Delivering a Net Zero NHS, which is available to read on the internet there. And that was kind of given some legal backing, if you like, with the Health and Care Act last year, which kind of puts us as a sector, a public sector organisation, a long way ahead of many others. And we're just trying to build on that here to push that leadership further forward. Our response to that climate emergency change and what the central NHS was doing was to replace our Sustainable Development Management Plan with something that's now called a green plan. Every trust will have one of these now, and also the integrated care systems in which those trusts sit. Ours was board approved in April 2022. I think one of the most important things to realise is this is just phase one. As it says on there, it's 2022 to 24. So by the end of next year, we will in effect have finished this phase one. After which there will be at least 2 other phases taking us to 2032 when we need to have achieved that 50% reduction in carbon emissions, which is a huge challenge, and one we really need to build on now. And then going on to net zero after that. So there will probably be a second chunk of phases to take us on from there. The plan, as it says, is very action oriented. There's 50 in there, 50 actions, and they kind of start from that point of, I think we all recognise why we've got to do this, when we've got to do it by. If nothing else, the government and the NHS have set us some very distinct targets on carbon reductions. And also, to a degree, we would pretty much know what to do in terms of the sort of things we should be doing. The really tricky bit is how we do it. And in thinking about how we do it, that then gets into who does what and where they do it. what all the actions we've got in here, they're all kind of based on how to do things, and are very much tailored to how CUH runs. Now, as Katie's just clicked that on there, which thanks for that, which is perfect. The one, yeah, and there's our Think Green Impact for Small Teams action sitting there, and that is quite probably the most important action out of all 50. You know, I would say that if every team in the trust did all 4 levels of Think Green Impact, which Katie will introduce in a minute, and also then went on to become the specialist, do the special section as well, I'd say probably at least 60% of the green plan would be done. And if we could sustain that, you know, we'd be on such a trajectory to be cutting our emissions to the level we need to be, to the half within 10 years. It would be massive. So TGI is really, really important. And the plan there, I mean, we put the Think Green Impact in that action set 1 as engaging the organisation action, but actually it feeds into all 4 action sets. You know, the rapid 10% reduction we're looking to achieve by the end of next year, then that springboard to 50% by 2032, and then probably a bit that gets forgotten is those system changes in terms of reframing or what, how, and how much we consume, which kind of underlines the whole of the green plan and the whole of the agenda, really, in terms of what we're trying to do. So I think that's kind of, in terms of introduction, where TGI sits. It sits in a really important point, as I said, and I think I think Katie will now kind of run through how TGI runs and what it means. Thanks, Katie.
Cool. Thank you, Richard. So so I Think Green Impact Programme, if you've never heard of it before, it's been running for a few years, but this year we've given it a proper revamp relaunch. So this is our relaunch week. So the TGI programme is essentially an interactive, fun online toolkit or guide that takes you through about 80 odd, can't remember the exact number, 80 odd criteria that we've created in the sustainability team that helps tackle things like waste, energy, transport, biodiversity, procurement, water, and there's a few kind of other ones in there as well. That every one that you kind of tick off, as you can kind of see on this right hand side, here's the screenshot from our toolkit once you register. As you can see here, you've kind of got this sort of part here, which allows you to tick off each one that you complete. And every single criteria that you complete, you are making a direct impact in the action plan here. So if I just take you back to this one, so most of our criteria will actually hit one of these individually. So there's quite a few on LED lighting and making sure that your team has LED lighting if at all possible in your workplace. So every criteria that you tick off, you are making a direct difference in helping us meet our climate targets. So within all the criteria, you do complete the 4 or 5 levels. So you've got green, bronze, silver, gold, and then our special. Each one gets slightly more difficult, although they're all still nice and easy. And once you complete each level, you get a little award, which you can see at the top here. So this was the lovely guys at the CCRC early phase unit, and they last year were the first team of ours to ever get all 4 awards. So they're still working towards their special, but our main ones that they completed, they did all 4, and it was amazing. And yeah, so this is the award that you get after each one. So it's not only are you making a massive difference, you do have something to kind of show all the hard work that you've done, which I think is really lovely, and you can display it to everyone and have a little song and a dance about it. So what I will pass you over to next, I'll pass you over to Max, who's our energy manager, just to talk about exact examples of TGI and the criteria that we do in it and how it makes a difference. So I will take you over to Max.
Thanks, Katie. Yes, basically, yeah, just to make it a bit more tangible about how much of an impact TGI can have if you participate in this. Regarding the energy topic, if you were, not already in the TGI, you might, or your colleagues leave, all the equipment on, use a lot of energy with more cost to the trust, for instance, whether it's financial or environmental. Whereas with TGI, we've highlighted some actions to help you and give you a little nudge in terms of, you know, thinking about turning the equipment off at the end of the day or anything like, or something like this. In just to try and give you a bit of an idea of the numbers, if we were to take a 5-person office, so with say 5 PCs, a few lights, a common printer, and maybe an air conditioning unit, the total cost for the trust, if you leave it running 24/7, will be about £9,000 every year, and that equates to about 6 tons of carbon again every year. So with TGI, and if you start, you know, switching it off at the end of the day, for instance, you can reduce this to, you know, £2,700 every year and less than 2 tons. So this is a considerable reduction, even for a small office. And we all know how, you know, how many staff and offices we have throughout the hospital. So this could very simply apply to all clinics and, you know, or offices or administrations which only work on, you know, kind of a 8 to 5 basis. Obviously, even if you are in a ward, you know, working 24/7, for instance, there is still, you know, equipment that doesn't need to be switched on at all times. So even if we're talking about a computer, about a small device, anything like this, anything that you can think you can turn off will have a huge impact at the end of the day, as you can see from the figures. So the next one will be, want to change the slide, please, Katie? Regarding waste, thank you. So basically, again, you or your colleagues, because I mean, for ease, because it's faster, quicker, you might just put everything in general waste bin, and to collect that, after the waste is collected, it will have to go to landfill, again, with a high cost to the trust because of more than £137 for every ton. If you start, you know, being part of the TGI and you know, apply the actions in it regarding the waste, maybe you'll start segregating the waste properly so it goes into the correct stream. And this will ensure that the costs are lower to trust. For instance, the recycling, dry mix recycling only comes up at £90 per ton compared to the 137. So there's a substantial economy there, saving there. And also that means you will be actually recycling that waste rather than just making it into a landfill. So we just generate about 11 tons every day of that. So that's 4,000 tons at the end of the year. It's huge. It will make a difference if you act on this. I think the next slide will be for Richard, or no, Katie, sorry.
Yeah. So another one that is highlighted in TGI is making sure that people are aware of sustainable transportation. So one of our criteria is to make sure that staff are aware of bus discounts. So to hopefully make sure that they don't drive to campus. So without TGI, as you can see, staff not aware of bus discounts, and then obviously worst case scenario, taking individual cars to work, which of course causes more carbon emissions and air pollution, and as well takes up a lot of car parking space, which I know the car parking team do an amazing job at trying to kind of to sort of manage that, bless them. But as you can probably imagine, we kind of run out of spaces quite quickly. So if you kind of calculate the total car footprint of the year, it's 1.5 tons, which is a lot of CO2 that we emit each year if you kind of drove individually in a car to work every day. That's kind of just an average. And you could be spending more than over £2,500 a year on your fuel. So a lot of money. Whereas with TGI, if you're encouraging your staff to take up bus discounts, which are available, and you then obviously take the bus, you're obviously reducing how much you spend each year, and you're lowering your carbon emissions by quite a lot. So again, on average, you're looking at less than 1 ton a year of CO2 that would be emitted from taking the bus, and you'd save more than half of what you would spend. So with TGI and transport, I think it's a really, really easy one to kind of to tap into if you can in your savings. So it's really, really good in terms of that. So just to talk a little bit about how to get involved in the TGI program, if you are now interested. So the best thing to do is to talk to your colleagues in your team and see if anyone else is actually interested in signing up. Hopefully it wouldn't just be yourself, and there should be other people that are engaged in sustainability in your team. If there are, then you can register your team via our Connect page, or you can have a look on our Facebook page, or you can drop us an email and we'll send you the link to get registered. It's nice and easy. So you register yourself as an individual first, and then you create a team. Please do put a team name that we can kind of link to your workplace in some form, just so we know who you are. But yes, pop your name on, and then you can literally get started. So you work your way through. So if you start with green, is what most people do, and then work your way up, and just kind of tick them off when you've done them. Put some evidence in there just so we know that you've done it, and it helps with the audit process as well once you submit the toolkit. And then if there's any problems or anything like that, literally just drop us an email. We do have online resources now available on Connect for any kind of templates and things like that, guidance and advice. And we've also got a Teams chat room that's now being kind of set up. So people within teams across the trust are able to talk to each other and just sort of seek guidance and support and just kind of have a chat about how they're doing and everything like that. And there will be catch-ups along the way with myself and I'm sure the other members of the team, just to see how everyone's doing. And again, just provide any guidance and support if there's anything that's proving to be a little bit more difficult. But we do have another webinar tomorrow at 11:30, which will be myself just going through the actual program on how to use it, how to register. So if you do want to tune into that one, please do. If not, there will be one going on our Connect very shortly on how to use it. But it is nice and easy to use. But if you do want to kind of tune in, please do, and we'll see you tomorrow. Does anyone have any questions at all? I'll stop sharing my screen and come back to you all. Yeah, Monica, go ahead.
Hi, one of the questions we always have in the team is regarding the recycling. So our understanding is that recycling and the waste management, the general collection that we've got is like kitchen things. It's not really being done properly. So people are not really believers of the waste management. Is that something that is correct, incorrect?
I would say that's definitely incorrect, Monica. If it goes in a green bag, it goes in our recycling compactor in the yard. We went to green bags probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and that meant there was no chance of the domestic, which is kind of normally in a clear bag, getting mixed up with the green bag. Environmental services operatives who basically collect those bags, if they're put down a chute, they'll separate them at the bottom and separate the green out into a separate skip that ends up being taken to the yard and put in their compactor. What we have tried to do, and the thing we have had a problem with, is contamination of that content, which is why we changed the labels about 2 years ago. You might remember we went through quite a lengthy process of trying to change the labels on the tops of all the bins, and all the green bins now have a very clear, and it needs to be simple. Ever since thankfully we stopped sending so much rubbish abroad, the recyclers in this country wanted a much cleaner stream and demanded a much cleaner stream, so we had to simplify what went into those bins. So the key bit is making sure that only what is on the label goes in those bins, and the rest is either domestic, or we might have another channel like bigger bits of cardboard or batteries or aerosols or domestic glass. Because we had one of the things we had to take out that we previously had in there was glass, but we have got domestic glass bins down on level 1, so we're very anxious that glass doesn't go in there, but it is slightly complicated.
Okay. I was going to ask, how can we get bigger green bins then? Because I think it's so we can share the training with our colleagues and we can improve that. Because actually at the moment we've got like 6 or 7 different bins, but yeah, we don't need that many. We probably only need 2, but we need everyone to comply with whichever needs to go into it.
Yeah, when we first brought in the dry mix recycling about 7 or 8 years ago, we chose the smaller green bins so that we could locate them in many different places, because there is an argument that if it's nearby, people will use it. If we've got fewer bigger ones and they're a bit further away, people won't use it. They'll just use the domestic. So it's a bit of a thing. And actually, we got a really good price also on those smaller ones, just because bins can be very expensive. So that's kind of why we've gone down that route. If you are finding you're filling those bins, do email Amanda Lloyd, who's our sustainable waste manager, and she'll help you out with trying to get the right size bin. But the bigger bins are a lot more expensive, and they will also then need probably to be removed specifically by the environmental services team rather than by your cleaner, because the cleaners basically collect up all the small bags, the green bags, and then they make sure they go in the right skip that ends up in the right compactor in the service yard.
Can I just ask, is there guidance out there on what exactly goes in the dry mixed recycling bin? Because we have a bit of an issue here, nobody really knows, so in the end pretty much everything gets chucked in any bin that's there.
That's definitely part of the problem. No, I certainly share that. I mean, on the label, basically it just says paper, cans, plastic and small card. If it's not those things, it really shouldn't go in there.
So for example, plastic, if someone has a pot of yogurt, do they need to wash it out, dry it and then put it in there? Or...
If it's given a rinse and put in there, plastic is very difficult. As you know, there's many different types of plastic. Our domestic contractor is prepared to take any form of plastic. They particularly like milk bottles. It's that sort of, it's going down the high density plastics, and I think there's at least seven different types of plastic.
So in terms of the dry definition,
yep,
we don't. So if you've got a water bottle, you know, how dry do things have to be? Those are the sort of questions that people have, I suppose.
I agree. What we'd say is if it's empty.
Empty.
And
clean. Empty and
doesn't
clean.
need to be. If it's empty and clean and no food waste, because you know if it's a plastic thing you've taken out of the microwave and you've had most of it, please don't put that in the recycling. That should always go in the domestic, because food waste is just tricky.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was on mute. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything?
One of the points I was just quickly going to say, and is anyone here from a laboratory? Because we've kind of got a slightly different approach for people based in laboratories, which Katie's trialing at the moment. If anyone is in a laboratory, do let us know separately, because they have a slightly different, as you imagine, slightly different setup in terms of the sort of waste streams they generate. So that's all good. Thanks.
Could someone just add a list somewhere of exactly what can go in the dry recyclables? Just to, you know, because you said glass is coming out, but if they could put a list on the Teams group or on the Teams chat or something, or somewhere, and then we can make it clear here.
There's a link on New Connect. Unfortunately, New Connect is still, its structure is still coming together. But I'm fairly confident we do have it. I will dig it out and put that link on the chat right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, Rachel's also popped on there that there is the e-learning module on the waste disposal as well. If anyone in your team, guys, wanted to have a look at that one, it is available on there as well. But we'll get something put in the chat as well. And yeah, you're more than welcome to email Amanda, who is, I've just put her email in there as well. She'll answer any questions to do with waste. There's nothing that she doesn't know about waste. So she'll be happy to help. Yeah, Graham?
Oh yeah, sorry, not a waste related question. I was just wondering, so as part of budget setting coming up and cost improvement programs and stuff more centrally to the trust, do you guys with the state and facilities work out what the Think Greener Impact and various other green initiatives will potentially save the trust in terms of pounds? Is that coming out of our cost improvement program, or can we as divisions propose, if we think we could get an X number of wards or X number of office areas to get to at least a bronze level of award, how much approximately that might take as cost out from the trust budget to drive that as well?
That's an incredibly hard question to answer, Graham.
Sorry.
And it's not one that we're really able to approach where we are at the moment, because every team will have different things they can do better and with better value. What we would say, though, is that any way that we can help you demonstrate a financial saving, we will do. And if we manage to do that, we will help you shout about it and try and make sure some of that money comes back to you. Unfortunately, most of the savings at the moment probably disappear into the sort of central pot, if you like.
Yeah.
Because as you probably know, I mean, Max knows better than anyone, as our energy manager, all our energy is paid for centrally. We don't, because it's almost impossible. You'd have to have such an incredibly detailed
I mean, that's what I
metering to do
assumed,
it.
that probably the corporate function would probably scoop that saving up. I mean, it's not to mean that we wouldn't do it anyway, but I was just wondering if we were able to demonstrate that, because obviously as divisions, we have to put forward how many millions of pounds we're going to save.
Yeah.
And whilst this might not be millions, when you break it down to individual wards, it would all contribute to our target.
And we would really love to. I mean, I'm a bit geeky on that sort of data. I know Max likes his data too, and we would very happily try and help you work out what you've saved.
I'll go through to our finance and see if they're willing to put it forward. And I mean, even if it was just a line on how many wards we could get converted to, whether it was just they all got to green award level for all our inpatient areas, that would be something that you could be able to be quite a good victory for you guys as well, I should imagine.
It will be interesting, because one of the things we try to do is try to sort of batch up the hospital on different functions, and a ward function is a very specific one that has a lot of shared elements to it, and we might be able to, come up with something around the savings on that sort of scale. So thanks, Graham. That's really good.
So thank you,
Graham. That would be absolutely fabulous if we could get to that point with wards, or particular areas or clinics or whatever that might be. Really difficult to evaluate, but everything and anything in relation to energy saving, that obviously it'll all go into the corporate pot and potentially, but it will mean less savings needing to be found by others for things, which is a good thing. So it all comes out in the wash sometimes a little bit. And then the same with procurement and all of those sorts of elements too. We're doing quite a lot of work at the moment, working with procurement about what's being ordered, the sustainability aspect of that, the amount of cardboard it all gets packaged in, how is it disposed of at the end of as well. And okay, so it might be again a corporate function that picks up the demonstration of those savings. But if we can say, but it's working over, divide by 50 or however many wards, we've probably got 60 now, however many wards we've got, then actually that also starts to tell the right story. And brilliant from the board perspective to be able to put that forward for the business planning in the future. Really, really great thinking, and we'd be really up for working with you on that.
Sure. Well, I'm going to start boring my colleagues with how my wards are going to get to the green gold before them, so we'll try and push it that way.
And I know they can't turn all the computers off overnight necessarily, but if you've only got, I don't know, 2 or 3 nursing staff on, that's only 2 or 3 computers at any one time. It means that we can turn other things off. And Max has demonstrated how much power can be saved by monitors being off overnight, for example. So it's those little things that will really help make a difference. Thanks, Graham. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Stefano, you did raise your hand. I don't know if you still have the question or not.
No, thank you. It's already answered. But just following up on the very last point about PCs being turned off, I've heard discussions within the hospital about whether we can, in certain areas, schedule those PCs be off. So if they're not used for a few hours, and we know that's in an area that's not used 24/7. So it's something that's been looked at. I can follow up with that and just see where we are with that. But yeah, no, fascinating. Thank you.
That's all right. Yeah, no, Max has done a lot of work with that, and I think it's a nice, easy win. I think turning off computers, it's so simple, isn't it? But it's one of those things that can save a huge amount of energy. I can't remember the exact numbers. I don't know if you have the exact numbers at the top of your head, Max.
One interesting thing they've got with computers turning off, if you go onto like the management bridge where finance used to be located en masse, a lot of those computers are left on and almost like slaved from home, but there must be other ways that they can access their information from home now, rather than having to have a computer on here all the time. But I don't know how many of them still do that.
And you can have the monitor turned off even if the slave computer is on, and you still get a significant saving by the monitor being completely powered down. So there's a load around that. It's really important. And printers as well, printer functions too.
We're hoping to have a much clearer set of guidance out very soon. Telephone architecture, because this place is so fragmented and everyone's got a slightly different way of doing stuff, it makes getting out standard data so tricky. But it's a totally valid point, and just that turning monitors off, even if you don't feel you can turn the PC off, and knowing how to turn the monitor off when the PC's bolted to the back of it, isn't that obvious. It's that second button from the left that does it for you, but not everyone knows that. So we're in the process of trying to get that out in a consistent manner, but everyone gets a bit edgy about accidentally turning off something that shouldn't be turned off.
Yeah.
So
especially when it's got big labels on it saying "Do not turn off."
That too.
But I mean, thank you all so much. I think this is a great initiative, and it's the first I'd seen of it. I know it's only fairly recently launched, but I only bumped into Katie in the concourse because I'm writing an assignment on sustainability separate to this anyway, and was just quite interested to what's happened. I contacted you, Richard. You really kindly gave me a PDF, and with Jitesh and the work he's doing with the nitrous oxide as well. But it's it's good. It's really very reassuring to see actually how much we are doing at CUH. I'm almost ashamed that I was so blissfully unaware of it all. So I will do my best to champion your cause and make as much noise as possible for you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thanks, Graham. And if we can help any more with what it is you're working on, then do please shout, because we're very keen on that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Now I know about you.
And probably know where we live.
Anyway, I must go, but thank you so much, and thank you for the presentation today. It's really good.
Cool. Thanks again, Graham.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Take care.
Does anyone have any final questions for us regarding sustainability or TGI or anything like that?
I think the key bit with it is understanding the levels. Just take things a little bit deeper all the time. And once you start with green, then you move on to silver. And there's no particular rush. The nice thing about TGI is just do it in your own speed, in your own time. But it's just keeping a little bit of momentum up, so it keeps rolling. It's just such a effective way of trying to get coverage of the whole hospital, which is what we hope. And also the new TGI as we have it allows that sort of networking between teams, which is a really nice factor, and something we will be playing up to try to bring people closer together, because that question you raised about the recycling is a shared one, and the more people that share it and become, it just helps make the message consistent. Because as we were saying to Graham there, one of the toughest bits is sharing information amongst such a, it might be one hospital, but it's made up of so many different parts, all doing things differently. But the more those different parts share, the unified stuff comes together much better. So thanks for your questions there. They were really, really valid.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, if no one's got any more questions, if you do think of anything, just drop us an email. Yeah, but thank you all so much for joining on, and yeah, thank you for all the questions. They're really, really helpful. And if you need any help registering for TGI, or I know Monica you already have, but if you have any questions regarding that, let us know. Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.